Welcome back to Tabletop Titans. My name is Adrian, and today I'm here to talk about the brand new Genestealer Cults Codex, and I could not be more excited about it. Big shout out, of course, to Games Workshop for sending us the Codex in advance. Normally, what I would do is I would talk about the detachments first and then go over to the units, but I want to talk about the datasheets first because I think they're really going to inform a lot of the ways that we look at these detachments. So with that, let's go through the datasheets first. Again, I'll try to shout out mostly where there are changes to things before, but I'm certain there could be things that might sneak in that I might miss. So of course we have the classic Patriarch and the Pure Strain Genestealers. Pure Strain are fantastic. They're going to have Infiltrate as well as Advance and Charge, which is pretty spicy in one of the detachments later on. Primuses, you GSC players will be pleased to see that they still retain their ability to give full hit rerolls to the unit that they joined, and they also have the redeploy. The redeploy remains before the roll-off, so it's not after you know who's going first, which is fair. It'd be a little bit wild, especially with some of the detachments that we have here. They can still join Acolyte Hybrids, Metamorphs, and Hybrids, so still a fantastic pick. I'm probably looking to take 2 or 3 of these, probably 3. So that's cool. Maguses, I'm not wild about Maguses. The mind control ability is cute. You can make someone -1 to hit. You can turn off Battle Shock nearby. But generally speaking, the HQ slots are so valuable here. She's not generally making the cut. And I want to give a bit of a preface, I guess a post-face at this point, on how we're reviewing some of these units. We're largely looking at the competitive use of them, what's strong, what synergizes well. We're also looking at what's fun, and I'll try to call out when that is more of a focus than the actual rules itself. Does it have a place? Is it interesting? Is it working as we think it should be? And so that's kind of my metric for these things. So moving right along, we got the brand new Benefactus. This is the new character with the big old brain head. Love the model. I love the concept of this unit. It's got a cool psionic cascade ability. It's shooting the brain lasers. And GW had kind of pitched this as an anti-monster, anti-vehicle pick for your models. And looking at this profile, it is good. You got 1 shot at BS3, strength 12, AP3, D6 +1, ignores cover in Psychic. And then, of course, you can supercharge it, which I think you almost always will. Gives you a 2nd shot, effectively. And, of course, hazardous. Those are great, but it's not enough by itself. They did go the extra distance and said, okay, you know what? You also give lethal hits in ranged to the unit that you join. This in my opinion, is really important to making this unit viable, because really, you need to buff the rest of the army. Like, the brain lasers are good, but they're not so powerful that you would just take them just for that. So that looks fine, that looks fine. Where I personally run into an issue with this unit is down here. So you can lead hybrids, metamorphs, and, acolytes, metamorphs, and neophytes. That's fine. The problem with this guy, and we'll talk about it when we get to detachments, is he's not one of he is one of the primary GSC leaders. You kind of have primary and secondary leaders in the GSC Codex. Primary ones being things like Maguses, being Icon Wards, being Primuses. Those are all units, models that you attach to units. Then you have the secondary characters like the Nexos, the Clamavis, all that good stuff. And they can join a squad even if one of the primaries is already in the squad, and you can get that double layer. Often the secondary characters aren't necessarily something you would want to take over the primary. So I really like the design of, like, you can kind of pair these two things. The problem with the Benefactus is I feel like he is more of a secondary choice. It's hard because you can put, of course, a Primus in a squad for those full rerolls. You get lethal hits with a Biophagus in melee. You could just get the Icon Ward's 5-up Feel No Pain and access to a bunch of other things. Like, it's really hard to bump out one of those other characters in exchange for the Benefactus. So I think that's probably my biggest issue with him. So we'll see. I want to try him on the table. I think he's probably most interesting in the index detachment. More on that later. Anyways, moving right along, we've got the Sanctus, which I would love to see played more. We've got the Nexos. Do note that his CP reduction still only applies to battle tactics. It's not written in here, it's not a core rule. But we have new detachments, which means it's another chance to look at what are the battle tactics that we can take advantage of for this free strat. And I think there's some that are worth taking. Of course, he still allows you to move a blip 6 inches. Now that we have different detachments, blips and cult ambushes are going to work a bit differently. They're functionally the same, they have the same rule, But because the way we're used to playing GC right now is we have that upbeat downy ability, right? Expend a CP, two battle line units can pop up, drop back down, all that stuff. It meant that you could play your blips pretty conservatively. You could put them in the back where they're going to be safe, spawn the unit, pick them up off the board, deep strike somewhere else, and you're kind of everywhere at once. But now, only that one detachment does that ability, and it is more limited, which means suddenly the blips actually need to be closer to where you need those units. So it's riskier, there's more play for your opponent to get rid of them, and it means us as the GSC players are going to have to adapt to that. I think it might be better for the game, but we're certainly going to have to adjust to that. So Cult Infiltration becomes, I think, more interesting than it might have been before. Claim of Us I still love, prevents deep strikes within 12 inches, which is awesome. You can force Battle Shock, but frankly, this Scrambler array alone, I think it makes it worth taking. There's a lot of 3-inch deep strike in the game. We have, again, I'm going to kind of fly through some of these ones that haven't really changed. The Biophagus is interesting. Lethal hits, he used to give anti-infantry once per game instead of +1 to wound. This is universally? Yeah, universally worse, because it's only +1 to wound instead of anti-infantry 2+, but fine, functionally the same in many cases. That is him. Still going to be fantastic in some of these detachments. We have the Kellamorph, which used to be shoot at a unit when one of your battle line nearby gets shot at. Instead, it's just if they move close by, it kind of shoots them as they're going by, which is much more interesting. So that's pretty spicy there. Icon wards are going to be functionally the same, and I think they're going to be, again, very important now in this new age of blips, because they, of course, once per game let you actually bring in a unit to them instead of next to the blip, or lets you move the blip or something similar to that. And that's really nice because, again, you're going to have to place those blips much more aggressively. So I really like icon wards in this new era. Now we're going to get to, I think, some of the most interesting changes in the book, datasheet-wise, the hybrids and basically the metamorphs. So the hybrids have always had this issue where there's all these different loadouts. You can have flamers, not flamers, heavy weapons. You want this mining weapon, you want this drill. They've simplified it, as expected, but I think they've done it in a pretty elegant way, actually. I'm a fan. So there's now 2 datasheets for Acolyte hybrids. There's Acolyte hybrids with hand flamers, and then there's Acolyte hybrids with auto pistols. Slightly misleading name, as you'll find out in a second, but I like it because they function differently. What this lets you do is if you have the hand flamers unit, you gain industrialized destruction. This lets you reroll wound rolls of 1, and if the enemy unit's within range of an objective, full wound rerolls. That is very, very spicy. So it's the assault, shock assault ability, basically. That's awesome. Now, what has changed? You'll notice there are no special weapons in here. There's the flamers you can take, and then there's demo charges, which is, I think, 2 out of every 5 can replace their flamer with a demo charge. But there's no special melee weapons. So full rerolls on an enemy that's on an objective, and you have to take all flamers. I think it's genuinely awesome. It's exciting. It really means they can punch up a ton. It's just a lot of attacks. Strength 4, AP 1. I think it's genuinely interesting. And of course, the flamers are awesome. The other version of the unit, the hybrids with auto pistols, they have claimed for the cult, which is the ability that the neophytes used to have. So at the start of the command phase, you roll a dice for each objective mark you control that has 1 or more units from your army with this ability. And if any of them is a 4+, you get a CP. So this is now the unit you want to have sitting on an objective to gain some CP. So interesting, they pulled that off of neophytes, and we'll talk about what they do instead. This unit has auto pistols, so no flamers here, but they do get access to the heavy mining tool, which is the consolidated profile for those special weapons. Makes sense in the kind of modern era 40k, we're consolidating things. Basically, this is going to allow you to build exactly what's in the kit and not have to like go 3D print lots of drills or a lot of whatever is good at the moment. So I think that's a fine change. And do note that because of that consolidated profile, you get a lot of these things. For every 5, up to 3 of them can have a heavy mining tool. So in a squad of 10, you can have 6 of them inbuilt. And it's an interesting profile. 2 attacks, weapon skill 3, strength 5, AP 2, 3 damage, anti-vehicle 4+. Genuinely interesting. I I'm going to try a combination of both to start. My gut instinct likes the rerolls to wound better. It just kind of scales nicer. But having some anti-vehicle is nice, and then also, of course, the CP is nice. So I think I'm at least taking a squad or two of these to kind of just sit on back objectives and farm those CP. So I actually really like the changes to this. The resing is the same, and I think it's an elegant change to it. Yeah, that's that. Now let's talk about the neophytes. The neophytes, which have been kind of the all-stars of this codex, this index, I should say, have been brought down a peg in a couple of different ways. The resing still works the same, but just like the acolytes, they now reflect the actual kit that they come in. Makes sense. I had to kit bash so many different seismic cannons and extra flamers or webbers and stuff before. So that's just what's in the box. For less strength, but probably healthier for the game and healthier for new players, which we got to keep in mind. So they have a plan generations in the making, which is sticky objective control. If you, at the end of the command phase, hold an objective marker and you leave it or you're shot off of it or whatever, it still remains under your control unless an opponent actually comes and physically takes it from you. So good ability. Good ability. It's fine. It's powerful. Over here, of course, we are going to be limited in the special weapons. You can still take a lot, but it's basically one of each type for every 10. So for every 10, you can have 2 of these special weapons, the heavy special weapons, no repeats. For every 10, you can have 2 of the special weapons, no repeats per 10. And then, of course, the leader can take that. So in a squad of 20, you're probably looking at 2 seismics, 2 mining lasers. And then for the other one, this is kind of a flex pick, honestly. You have flamers, grenade launchers, webbers. I think they're all still interesting for different reasons. I think I'm leaning towards grenade launcher and flamer at the moment, but I think they're all viable. So it's a little bit less focused. You'll also notice that the seismic cannons did take a hit. They lost 2 of their shots. They used to be 4 shots up to 6. Now it's 2 shots up to 4. Maybe fair. They were very, very, very strong. It was an absurd amount of shooting. So yeah, that's hybrids. It's weird. I like them a little bit less, if I'm honest, but I think in some detachments there's still some play for them. With that, we come to the metamorphs, which have had a nice glow up. I hope. I'm genuinely excited to try these guys on the table. They've always kind of been in a weird place. They're not battle line, so what really differentiates them from hybrids? Well, a couple things. So they have that sweet 5-up Feel No Pain, which is nice. They also have Scout 6 inches, and they have a Brood Surge, which is like Blood Surge. So when this unit is selected to be shot at, after that unit has finished shooting at them, they can then move D6 inches, which I believe can take you into combat. So it really makes your opponent question who's going to shoot them, are they going to be able to kill them fully, or are they just going to reach and shut down the rest of the shooting. Additionally, I really like this, if every model in the unit started the game with an auto pistol, then when they do a Brood Surge, they don't move D6, they move flat 6. And I thought this was an elegant way to encourage what is, generally speaking, just the worst option, right? You have auto pistols, you have flamers, they're going to cost the same points because of 10th edition, but now there's actually an interesting trade-off. 6-inch Brood Surge versus flamers. And genuinely, I don't know, I almost like the auto pistols better, but it depends on the detachment. So I really like this change. I'm excited to try them on the table. Let me know what you think of the new hybrid metamorphs. A couple key units I want to talk about. Abominant no longer passes out. It was sustained before. Now it's Fight on Death on a 4+, which I'm actually a big fan of. His Power Sledgehammer, I believe he got a little bit better, an extra attack or so. Aberrants. Some bad news for us, unfortunately. They no longer have the 4+ Feel No Pain. It's now a 5-up Feel No Pain. Fair? Probably. Sucks? Yeah. And they also finally got rid of the extra profile with the stop sign. It's just aberrant weapons. It was very clunky and not usually worth doing anyway, so that's fine. So other than that, I think they're still a fantastic unit, and they're going to be really interesting in one of the detachments. Yeah, bikes slightly adjusted, I believe. Select an enemy within 6. You roll a d6 for each. They do mortal wounds up to 6. Oh, okay, I think that's the same. They have some of the FAQ stuff built in here. Ridge Runners, I still really like Ridge Runners. Crossfire has that ability to after you're done shooting at a unit, if you hit them, +1 AP till the end of the turn. So shooting and melee. Very, very, very spicy. I think for me, I'm at least taking 2 of these in every list with a mortar, so you can shoot it on line of sight. And depending on your detachment, you're either taking the ignore cover ability, the ability to strip cover away, or if you frankly don't have a lot of shooting, or your only shooting is flamers that ignore cover already, then you could pay for the spotter to get BS3. So I think that's a little tech there. And I think you're taking units of 1 to be able to just spread out those shots, unless you're going to take like another unit for some specific anti-tank, which is interesting. So love this unit, still an all-star, taking it every list. Rock Grinders, I'm a little bit bummed about. They lost their impact mortal wounds, which is like, this unit already was not seeing enough play. Why did they do that? Instead, it forces Desperate Breakout, and if they're battle shocked, at an extra -1. So you have to make them battle shocked to have that extra effect. It doesn't work on monsters and vehicles. I don't understand why they did this. Mortal wounds was cool, fun, and it still wasn't even taken that often. So that's a bit of a bummer. Goliath trucks, they retained their fire support rule, which is good because if you're talking to Sisters players, they lost that on their immolators. So I like this ability a lot. I just hope we can see more play from them. So let me know in the comments down below. You have any brews you're working on that involve the Goliaths? They're awesome models. They're very flavorful, and I would love to use them more. So let me know. And that's it. That is the data sheets. So it's interesting because it's probably the first book where we've seen a significant number of data sheet changes that really adjust the way that these units play. And I'd say overall, it's for the best. I think they're really nailing down that design space. It's cool, it's fun, it's powerful. Let's wind our way in now. So we alluded a bit to Cold Ambush. This is the same, actually. There was a little bit of question in my mind of whether or not they would rewrite this, but it is the same as the post-FAQ index. So whenever one of your Genestealer Cult units is destroyed, you roll a d6 on a 5+, you get an identical copy of them. If on a 5+, you still get, let's see, where are all the +1s? +1 if it's the first or second battle round, which is awesome. They do note that you do get your one-shot weapons back, so those demo charges, and you place them anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches away. And they talk about also how to destroy them. I think that is that. Yeah, characters don't return. Making sure we got all this right. Oh, I don't think it's +1 for battle line anymore. That's very interesting. That's a big deal. Cool. So it is a bit less reliable, unless I'm being completely clueless here. Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. That is Cold Ambush. Moving right along. Host of Ascension. This is basically the index detachment with some modifications. I'm a little sad about some of them, I'll be honest here. I think they lost some of the fun, for me personally, of the detachment, which is popping up and down, doing all that wild stuff. It was perhaps a bit too much before, but I don't know, we'll see. So let me know what you think. Detachment rule, perfect ambush. This is the same as before. Each time a Genestealer Cult unit from your army is set up on the battlefield as reinforcements till the end of your next fight phase, works in melee, you get sustained 1 and ignore cover. Fantastic ability. Hopefully there's a way to trigger that multiple times per game. I'll give you a little hint. It's less than before. Enhancements, we've got three enhancements here. A Prowling Adjutant does remain. It's on a Genestealer Cults model. Once per turn, when an enemy unit ends a normal advance or fallback within 9, if they're not in engagement range, they can make a normal move of a d6. Nice little utility. I think it's good to have if you have the points to spare. Next up, we've got a Chink in their armor. This is a new one. Genestealer Cults model only. Each time the bearer is set up on the battlefield as reinforcements, until the end of your next fight phase, ranged weapons get lethal hits. Weird to say end of next fight phase when it doesn't benefit in the fight phase. So it gives lethal hits. Again, this will combo with the detachment rule. Seems interesting. A big unit of neophytes. This means they can actually start plinking away at something big. And, oh, I'm sorry, we have 4 enhancements here. That's unusual. Our time is 9. Genestealer Cults model once per battle. When the bearer's unit declares a charge, they can use this enhancement, and they get +2 to their charge. This is something I like about the changes to this detachment. It's less about shooting. The index detachment was very much based around shooting units. Now it's a bit of a mix. It's more just about that perfect ambush, coming in and doing that thing on the turn that you arrive from reserve. So in this case, +2 to charge, taking that to a 7-inch charge. That's cool. I like it. It gives you a bit of melee out of Deep Strike. And last of all, Assassination Edict, Genestealer Cults model only. Each time a model in the bearer's unit makes an attack that targets a character, add +1 to the hit roll. That's great. I love it. We've got lots of characters embedded in units these days, so it's +1 to hit much of the time. I think it's cool for acolytes. I think it's cool for neophytes. Could even be cool for Iberans. Heck, I mean, I'd love for those guys to hit on 2s. So you'll notice we've got some new additions here, and we also are missing some things. They took out the Vect, which, interesting. It was an expensive enhancement, but pretty powerful. And they also took out the Infiltrate, which is a big deal because that was a very powerful ability. You'll notice it has been basically moved to a different detachment. So kind of a mixed bag on the enhancements, personally. Now let's take a look at the stratagems. We've got Coordinated Trap. This existed before. It's a 2 CP battle tactic, and you select 2 Genestealer units that have not been selected to shoot or fight this phase, and you pick 1 enemy unit, and there's some extra restrictions. Basically, for both those units, it's going to be +1 to wound against that target. It's very expensive, and while it is a battle tactic, it does target multiple units, which means it's not going to be eligible for that CP, the 0 CP ability. So that's rough. That's rough, honestly. I wish this had got a bit of an upgrade. Next up, we have Primed and Readied, 1 CP battle tactic. In your shooting or fight phase, you pick a Genestealer Cults unit that has not been selected to shoot or fight, and they get crits on 5s instead of 6s. This is genuinely great. Imagine this on neophytes, dropping in with the Primus. Crits on 5s, full rerolls. That's a lot of sustained hits, potentially lethal if you have the upgrade. I'm a big fan of this one. This is fantastic, and you're going to use this a lot. And it is a battle tactic you can actually refund with the Nexos. So I like that. I could see 2 bricks of 20 neophytes with a Primus and an Exos really doing work here. Next up, we have Tunnel Crawlers. I'm very glad this one made it. This is a 1 CP strategic ploy in your movement phase, and use it on a Genestealer Cult unit that's arriving from Deep Strike. This is the one that allows you to be beyond 3 inches. This is beyond 6 inches. So they've done a modification beyond 3 inches if you're battle line, and of course you're not able to charge after this. So I'm glad they kept it. The battle line thing is fine. Like, you can't really do shenanigans with characters or aberrants. But I think most of the time you're trying to do this with battle line anyways. So you're trying to put a bunch of bodies or a bunch of OC, get close with some shooting, like flamers. So this is totally great strat. Big fan, love it. And it's 1 CP. Next up, Lying in Wait, 1 CP strategic ploy in your opponent's movement phase. You select one of your battle line units in ambush. This one, I'm not the biggest fan. What it does is, until the end of the phase, rather, with ambush markers, you have to come in wholly within 3 inches of that objective of the ambush marker. This allows you to come in within 6 instead, and no engagement range. It's cute, it's kind of flexible, it's getting you a little bit closer, it's buying you a few extra inches, which could be good, but I don't know, it's awkward. It doesn't prevent them from being turned off if they're getting within 9 inches. So I think you'll use it, it just feels not exciting, frankly. Let me know if I'm missing something cool about that. This next one, however, Return to the Shadows. Buckle up, Genestealer players. 1 CP, strategic ploy. This is the one that allows you to put units back into reserve. This is the bread and butter of this detachment and formerly of the army. The way it works now, however, is it only works in your opponent's shooting phase, or, no, that's it, after an enemy unit has shot and you pick a Genestealer Cults unit that was selected as the target of one or more of those attacks. So they have to be literally shot at. If they survive, you can spend the CP to remove them from the battlefield and place them into reserves. It's brutal. So they get a chance to just nuke you off the board. So it sucks. It's completely dependent on your enemy. Either they won't shoot you because they don't want you to go back in reserve and they don't have enough bullets to make it do anything, or they'll just make sure they send in enough bullets in the first round that they take a huge chunk out of you. So yeah, this is a real bummer, honestly. So not only does it not return 2 battle line to reserve anymore, it's only 1, and 1 infantry, and you have to get shot at first. So it's honestly a big bummer. Yeah, I'm pretty disappointed by this. Last of all, 1 CP, a Deadly Snare, strategic ploy in your opponent's charge phase after they declare a charge. You pick one of your Genestealer Infantry from your army that's selected as the target of charge. You roll a dice on a 2 to 4, they take D3. On a 5-6, they take 3 mortal wounds. Don't do this strat. It's not worth it. The one exception I'll make is if you take the Saboteur, pop some mortal wounds, they charge her, pop some mortal wounds again, and you can really lean into a lot of mortal wounds. But it's just not worth the risk. You can do so much more for that CP. So that's the Host of Ascension. Again, kind of disappointing. I like that they leaned more into a combined arms detachment. It's melee and shooting, and it's mostly based off of coming in from reserve. But they took away our best way to come in from reserve, re-triggering your abilities for the whole game. I think that's so lame. Like, this was part of the problem with GSC before, was it was so dependent on the first few turns, and we're kind of just back to that. Like, you have your first 3 turns to deep strike, you have your first 3 turns to recycle your units, and after that, you can maybe return 1 unit. Sucks. They took away the ability to give lone up, or even just stealth. It's a bummer. It's a big, big bummer. So, anyways, that's that detachment. This detachment, the Xenocreed Congregation, this is where it's at. This is, I think, for me, the most exciting and probably powerful of these detachments. So let's talk about it. This detachment is all about your amazing battle line units and their accompanying primary characters, like we talked about before. So they have the Unquestioning Fanaticism ability. This is army-wide. For each Acolyte hybrids, Hybrid Metamorphs, and Neophyte hybrids unit from your army, while 1 or more character models are leading that unit, you can reroll advance and you can reroll charges. Okay. That's cool. That's exciting. I like that. Talking about melee, I'm excited about that. And then lastly, if that character model is a Magus, Primus, or Acolyte, so one of those primary ones we talked about, not the new character, that model gets a Feel No Pain 3+ ability while leading their unit. So that's nice because you're really going to want your characters in here. They're pretty squishy, so they can be precision out with relative ease. So this will make them a little bit tougher to kill, while giving a nice core ability that clearly wants to focus on melee and movement. 2 of the best things in the game. So far so good, but it gets better. Enhancements, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 spoiled for choice here over in Genestealer Cult land. The first one is Genesire's Reliquant. Magus, Primus, or Acolyte icon ward only. You can reroll battle shock tests taken for the Bears unit. It's cute, but I'll tell you we got better things coming up. Next up, Denunciator of Tyrants. Magus, Primus, or Acolyte icon ward. Each time like model in the Bears unit makes an attack that targets a character unit, add +1 to hit roll and add +1 to the wound roll. I love it, I love it, I love it. I think it's fantastic. The only thing is I kind of want to put this on Neophytes, but I also want to put it on Acolyte hybrids. So I'm kind of torn, and it has to be Magus, Primus, or Icon Ward, right? So yeah, tough call. I'm probably just leaning into the mega damage from a Primus. It's nice because, of course, you have the shooting weapons that hit on 5s, going to 4s here, full rerolls. Then you're really starting to be consistent. And again, lots of characters joining squads. So this is a fantastic enhancement, taking in every single list. Next up, we have Deeds That Speak to the Masses. I love that. Deeds That Speak to the Masses. It really just gets them going, you know? I love it. So again, Magus, Primus, or Icon Ward. Once per turn, when rolling for a battle line unit with the Cult Ambush Army rule, if the bear is on the battlefield, you can re-roll the result. Amazing. You need this auto pick, keep it on a safe character in the back. Probably, I'm here in this case looking at an Icon Ward to be able to protect your blips once per game. Also let you re-roll your generation of your blips and just sitting in the back, probably with the Climb of Us preventing deep strike, just being safe, holding objectives, generating CP, holding primary. I love it. This is amazing. Auto take. Last of all, Incendiary Inspiration, Magus Primus Icon Ward, allows the unit to advance and charge. Amazing. Auto take for sure. I love it. We will have a strat that does this later on, you'll see, but to just not have to spend that CP, fantastic. So in this case, again, I'm probably looking at a Primus joining a unit of Acolyte hybrids. So that's a pretty spicy meatball. That's the enhancements. I love it. Next up, the stratagems, and they continue to be awesome. This first one is a revenge strat, but don't worry. I think it's actually interesting. 1 CP, sorry, Vengeance for the Martyr. 1 CP Epic Deed. In your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase, after an enemy unit destroys a Genestealer Cults character from your army, you pick another Genestealer Cults character from your army. Until the end of the battle, each time a friendly acolyte hybrid metaphor or neophyte hybrids model make an attack that targets that enemy unit, you'll reroll a hit roll of 1, and if the destroyed model was a Magus, Primus, or acolyte onward, you can reroll the hit instead. Each time, yeah. This is kind of weirdly worded. Because you target, so your opponent's phase destroys an enemy character. You pick the character that died, and then another character, but it doesn't appear to have anything linked in here. You just have to, I guess you just have to have another character is what matters. Another one on the table. Because they're basically, this one is, oh, it is. Should one of the patriarchs enter coven fall, those that remain are swift to call for lethal retribution. So they're like stoking the fires, but you have to have someone to actually do that. That's cool, I like that. But yeah, reroll hit rolls of 1, and if it's one of those primaries, full hit rerolls. That's cool. It's a bit situational, but it's powerful. Your Primuses will die. Their Icon Wards will die, I'm sorry to say. So that's great. Next up, Frenzied Devotion, 1 CP in the fight phase. You pick one of these hybrids, metamorphs, or acolytes, metamorphs, or neophytes, and basically you can supercharge their weapons. They gain hazardous and melee, but they also get +1 attack, +1 weapon skill, but not on the characters. That's awesome. It's cool, it's fun. You got some fragile glass cannons you're going to be thrown in there unless you really throttle that damage. So I love it. Next up, Tireless Fervor, 1 CP strategic ploy. That last one was a battle tactic, by the way. So this is your Nexos food. Tireless Fervor, 1 CP in your charge phase. You pick a acolyte, a metamorph, or a neophyte. That's a lot of words. And until the end of the phase, they are able to fall back in charge or advance in charge. In addition, if they target an enemy, if you target an enemy with character, you can reroll the charges. Awesome. Oh, if you target an enemy unit in engagement range of one or more friendly character units, you can reroll the charge roll. That's funny. This second part only matters if you don't have a character in your unit, but it's cute. It's just bonus, right? Like I would take this just for advance and charge, fall back and charge by itself. We've got bonus on top of that. Next up, we have Transcendent Celerity, 1 CP strategic ploy. In your shooting phase, you pick one of these key units. Until the end of the phase, range weapons have Assault. Oh, beautiful. So we've got advance and charge, Assault, amazing. We know we're going to have a bunch of hand flamers. This is very, very spicy. I think it's all coming together. Now imagine, if you will, for a moment, you have your Ridge Runners dropping down, giving extra AP to those flamers, so you can advance, shoot flamers at AP1, ignore cover, charge in, do a ton of damage. Oh, that's awesome. Next up, we have 2 CP, very expensive, the Downtrodden Rise, and you do this at the end of a reinforcement step of your opponent's movement phase if you have no cult ambush markers on the table. Then you also pick one of these key units, and you can set up your units on the battlefield without using a cold ambush marker. They just have to be 9 away from enemy units and not within your opponent's deployment zone and wholly within 9 of a battlefield edge. Very expensive, but very powerful potentially. So this is basically saying instead of using a blip, you can come in on a battlefield edge more than 9 inches away and not within your enemy's deployment zone. This is fantastic. So expensive, but very powerful once you can get the hold of it, hang of it, and kind of budget out those CP. Last of all, the Path of Anguish. This is 1 CP strategic ploy in your opponent's shooting phase after an enemy unit has shot. You pick an acolyte hybrid or neophyte hybrid unit from your army that had one or more of its models destroyed. Okay, so someone has to have died, just models. The unit can make a move of D6, but must go as close as possible, and you can be moved within engagement range of enemy models. Blood Surge, baby, let's go. Amazing, I love it. So what we have here is really the full package. We've got a good detachment ability, fantastic enhancements, and fantastic flexible stratagems. This is an amazing detachment. It's cool, it's fun, it's powerful, it's going to be awesome. So I'm very excited. I'm going to be playing this in the very first live game happening on a launch day. With that, we're going to pause for some coffee. Delicious. And we're going to take a look at, let's be honest, what might be the coolest detachment here. This is the Biosanctic Brood Surge, and this is all about Muscle Beach. It's about those biophages doing their experiments on different things and making more twisted abominations than the Genestealer already has. So their detachment ability is Hypermorphic Fury. You add a +1 to charge rolls made for aberrants, biophages, and pure strain Genestealers units from your army. Love it! Amazing. I don't know how it stacks up against rerolls, but it does let you combine it with things like CP rerolls, which is nice. And there's other ways too. In addition, each time such a unit is selected to fight, if it made a charge move this turn until the end of the phase, add 1 to the attack characteristic of melee weapons equipped by models in that unit. Plus 1 attack aberrants. That's a 33% increase in damage output. That's a very spicy meatball. So, huge fan of that. I also want to note, this kind of follows suit with what a lot of the codexes have been doing. They have these key units, aberrants and pure strain, but then they also have a character that benefits that you can staple onto other units. In this case, it's going to be the biophages, which you can attach to your neophyte hybrids, your acolyte hybrids, and your metamorphs, and basically unlock the rest of these abilities when they would normally be focusing just on aberrants and pure strain. And that gives the detachment a bit more breadth than what we normally have. So I like that a lot. That actually makes it in some ways a bit more flexible than the Xenocreed. Taking a look at the enhancements, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, yet again. First off, Predatory Instincts. This is effectively the one that used to be in the Index Detachment. It allows an Abominant, Biophagus, or Patriarch model to give his unit Infiltrate and Heroically Intervene for 0 CP. You don't get the CP refund anymore, but very good, very powerful, and frankly, Abominants are kind of the units you already wanted to have do this anyway. So bring them up the board, sneak on in there, get that muscle beach behind an L. Very tough to dig out, so big fan of that. Next up, we have Biomorph Adaptation. This is an Abominant or Patriarch only, and this gives them +1 AP, +1 damage. Oh, I love it. In our little pre-recorded game, which everyone will see very soon, I did put this on my Patriarch, and let me tell you, +1 AP, +1 damage is very spicy meatball. So fantastic, fantastic, mutagenic regeneration. Abominant, Biophagus, Patriarch. In the command phase, 1 model in the bear's unit regains 1 lost wound. Nah, not really taking it. Especially because this last one is fantastic. Alien Majesty. This is the Abominant, Biophagus, or Patriarch. While an enemy unit is within engagement range of the bear's unit, subtract 1 from the objective control characteristic of models in that enemy unit to a minimum of 1. This is awesome. One of the best things in aberrants is to just clog them up or just simply stand on the objective nearby. And if they haven't fully covered that objective, you can usually fit a good chunk of like battle line OC in there to strip it away. Well, I guess you have to be within engagement range of this, so that's still viable, unfortunately. But I really like this. I think it's a great upgrade, and it's definitely worth taking. So these 3 are fantastic. Give mutagenic regeneration a pass. Don't worry about it. These are great. It's a great attachment ability, great enhancements. Let's look at the stratagems. First off, we have Evasive Vanguard, 1 CP strategic ploy, and the way this works is, So this is the theme that exists in a few of the detachments. This one is to do with your ambush markers and what happens when they would be destroyed. Again, we do need that now because of changes in detachments, but let's talk about it. So you do this in any phase just after an enemy unit ends a move within 9 of 1 or more of your cult ambush markers before removing the marker from the battlefield. Okay, sounds promising. You pick a pure strain Genestealer Cults unit from your army in cult ambush. That's a little specific already. Okay, well, what does it do? You select one of those ambush markers and you can move it up to 6. And if it's still within 9, it is still removed. Otherwise, you can only bring in pure strain Genestealers to be set up with that cult ambush marker. It's very niche. It's a lot of work. It's very conditional. It doesn't even guarantee to save it. And you have to have a pure strain in cult ambush. I don't like it. I get the idea. I appreciate the thought, GW, but that's just, what is this? It's not going to work. So, no thank you. Next up, we have Saintly Paroxysm. 1 CP Epic Deed. Effectively, this is in the fight phase. After one of your infantry characters is destroyed, you can do mortal wounds on a 2+. So it'll be D3 mortal wounds on a 2+, but if it was an Abominant or a Patriarch, it's 2D3 mortal wounds. It's spiky, it's cute, it's good in a pinch. I'm into it, it's fun. Yeah, I like it. The only tough thing is, of course, there's other strats, which I think you'll be spending more of your CP on. So this is just kind of a break class in case of emergency situation. So let's take a look. Gene Twisted Muscle. Oh my gosh. 1 CP Battle Tactic, Nexos. 1 Aberrant, Biophagus, or Pure Strain. So limits the Nexos use there. Or eliminates it. Until the end of your next phase, each time model in your unit makes an attack that targets a monster or a vehicle, +1 to wound. I love it. It's great. It's conditional, but it's cheap. and it's not overly conditional, and it's units that you kind of already would be interested in going into these targets, so it makes them even more effective. The aberrants are only strength 7, so the +1 to wound is going to be pretty critical there, and of course the pure strain only strength 4, so it suddenly makes them actually very, very capable of taking out those big monsters and vehicles. I love it. Next up, Hyper Metabolic Vigor. 1 CP battle tactic. In the fight phase, you pick an aberrant, biophagist, or pure strain Genestealer unit, and the way this works is it gives you a 6-inch pylon and a consolidation. While you have to still end closer to the enemy, the closest enemy unit, you don't have to end closer to the closest enemy model. Because what can happen is you kind of just get bunched up against the models that you're already next to, and the objective might be back here. So this lets you go farther, and you don't have to just stay next to the people that you're already next to. So it lets you kind of flood past them. A bit difficult to use, but I think very powerful when practiced and used by experienced players. So I'm into it. Stimulated Biosurge 1 CP battle tactic. This is probably one of my favorites. In your charge phase, you pick an aberrant, a biophagist, or a pure strain, and it's a little wordy, so let me explain how this works. As long as you're charging the closest eligible unit, you're going to get +1 to charge for every target of your charge, up to 3. So it has to be against the closest unit. If you just do that, it's +1 to charge. That's great. But if you multi-charge against 2, you're going to get +2. If you multi-charge against 3, you're going to get +3, and that's where it caps out at. So while it does seem kind of niche at first, at the end of the day, it's at least a +1 to charge, and I think it's often a +2 to charge if you can kind of position well. So that's amazing. Keep in mind, it does also stack with your Hypermorphic Fury. So at minimum, this is basically giving you +2 to charge. A 9-inch charge down to a 7-inch charge, that's a huge threshold. You think about like the dice distribution, 2 dice, 7 is the most likely outcome that you have there by a healthy margin. So if you can get to that 7-inch charge threshold, it's going to be a big, big upgrade to your charges. So I love it. I use this a ton in, of course, the battle report that's coming out today. Next up, we have Biohorror Revelation 1 CP, Strategic Ploy. You do this at the start of your opponent's shooting phase. You pick an aberrant, biophagist, or pure strain, and until the end of the phase, each time an enemy unit within 9 is selected to shoot, they have to take a leadership check, subtracting 1, and if they failed, they are -1 to hit. This strat is so poopy. We've had some amazing ones today and in this detachment, but this is no-go. It's so ridiculously overly conditional. We have armies that for 1 CP give you lone op or stealth in some cases. This is a lot of steps to basically have stealth. Yes, it would stack with stealth, but it's ridiculous. It's the start of the shooting phase. So they don't even have to target your unit. They have to choose to do that. They have to take a leadership check at -1. Oh, and then if they fail, then they're -1. And guess what? It's not even a battle shock test, so it's not like they can't do strats. At least make it a battle shock test. What the heck is this strat doing here, man? It's crazy. So get rid of that one. Don't worry about that one. We got lots of other amazing strats for them. So what do I think of this detachment overall? I think it's very cool. I think it's very fun. I think it's decently strong. I think Xenos Creed is probably stronger, but I love this because it focuses on units that are awesome. Aberrants, Pure Strain, and the Biophagist. So you can kind of splice in those amazing battle line units that you already have in the book. So I think it's cool. I like it. With that, we're going to go to the next one. We've got 2 more detachments here. This is the Outlander Claw, the much requested biker detachment. The bikers, the Ridge Runners, all those fast kind of Outlander gang models are awesome. They're very, very cool. And I think we've been looking for them to have a bit more support. They have a contentious history. They have been very, very powerful in a number of their iterations. I don't know if that's going to be the case here, but it certainly helps elevate them because currently in the game they're not the best. So let's take a look. Detachment rule is Rapid Takeover. And what this does is for your whole army, you double the OC of Genestealer Cults mounted and Genestealer Cults vehicle models of your army. Amazing. So now they can actually hang. They've got lots of extra OC. Let's take a look at them actually. I'm realizing I don't know what their OC is here. OC is 1. Have they always been 1? Let me check real quick. Look at the old version. It's been a minute since I played these guys. Adelans. Atalan Jackal. Okay, so yeah, they have been 1. Okay, cool. So this is genuinely an upgrade. I'm just making sure that they didn't have 2 as a mounted unit, strip it down to 1 and try to give it back. So this is genuinely an upgrade. Double OC. And then, of course, the Ridge Runners have OC3, which goes to 6. Big inflection point there. So you double that. In addition, at the end of your command phase, if one or more Outlander Jackals units from your army are within range of an objective marker, that objective marker remains under your control, even if you have no models within range of it, until your opponent controls it at the start or end of any turn. So sticky objective holding. It's cool. I like it. I'm into it. So bikes, mounted, fast vehicles. No, just vehicles. Oh, so the trucks. Oh, maybe we can do some truck stuff. Enhancements, 1, 2, 3, 4. Serpentine Tactics. Genestealer Cults mounted model only. The Bears unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it fell back. Amazing! Mandatory! Taking that. Cartographic Data Leech. Genestealer Cults model only. While the bear is embarked within a transport, each time that transport is selected to shoot, until the end of the phase, improve the ballistic skill characteristic of ranged weapons equipped by the transport as a result of the firing deck ability by 1. Oh, +1 to hit shooting out of a vehicle. Amazing, I love it. They don't hold a ton of models, but we're talking about a couple of mining lasers, so you probably do mining lasers, you could do seismics, 2 grenade launchers, and then, oh, you can't do, so it's 1 mining, 1 seismic, 1 grenade launcher, and then the last doesn't require BS, so yeah, that's okay. Starfall Shells. This is a mounted unit again. In your shooting phase, after the bearer has shot, select one enemy unit hit by 1 or more of those attacks made with a Colt sniper rifle. Until the start of your next shooting phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, they get -1 to hit. That's awesome. I love it. Let's your sniper actually do something when they inevitably fail to kill the character that they were trying to precision out. That's very cool. What does this say? When they hit, these handcrafted sniper bullets radiate with a supernatural aura, redolent of the void's numbing chill. Muscles seize, fingers cramp, and thought slows as the sinister saturation takes effect. Oh, that's so cool. We got a little Tyranid juice in there. Love it. And last of all, Assault Commando. You pick a Genestealer Cults model, and if the model in this bear's unit makes a range attack, if they disembark from a transport this turn, you can reroll the hit roll. I love this. The trucks give reroll to wound already, basically. So this kind of has an inbuilt Primus into the unit. So you could put this on. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Okay. Mr. Benefactus, finally, so you can give them lethal hits, re-rolling to proc those lethal, and then whatever doesn't get the lethal hits, you're re-rolling to wound from the Ridge Runner. We're trying it. I love it. So what do we think about these? I think the -1 to hit is very cool. I think this is genuinely interesting. I think these 2 are mandatory, Serpentine Tactics and Starfall Shells. The other 2... I'm kind of torn. I think I lean towards Assault Commando, which you can probably tell by the way I'm talking about it. But I'd say none of them are terrible, which is good. Let's take a look at the strats. Along Shadowed Trails. Sounds nice. 1 CP strategic ploy. In any phase after an enemy unit ends a move within 9 inches of 1 or more of your Colt ambush markers, you pick an Outlander Jackal unit. And this is kind of like the one I talked about before. We have a theme in these last 3 detachments. You pick one of those ambush markers. You can set it up anywhere on the battlefield that's more than 9 from enemy in units and wholly within 6 or 1 or more battlefield edges. Till the end of the battle, you can only select Outlander Jackals to come in through that. So this is similar, but frankly better. It is still very niche. You can only use your bikers to come in, but it's much more flexible. It's not just move it 6 inches, you know? So I like this. I think you'll definitely use it. Again, you're going to want to be aggressive with those ambush markers. So this is going to give you a bit of a protection. In some cases, you might even want them to do it so that you can move it to a different side of the board. So pretty cool. Devoted Crew, classic ability, 1 CP battle tactic. In your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase after they select a target, it's basically when they target a Rock Grinder or a Goliath, -1 damage. That's cool. I like it. It's a little bit like it's a CP to protect a transport, but I think a lot of your bread and butter is going to come from that. So I think if you're Assault Commandos, then you're going to do it. Close range shootout, 1 CP battle tactic. In your shooting phase, you pick a mounted or a vehicle unit that has not shot yet. Till the end of the phase, they get lethal hits while targeting an enemy unit within 18. Mounted or vehicle. It's okay. You know, you can have a lot of shots from the bikers especially, or if you have a unit of 2 Ridge Runners. I probably would do it on bikes if they're getting the +1 AP. Yeah. and the bonus from the Jackal Alphas. Yeah, it's kind of lukewarm on that one. Next up, Rapid Feint 1 CP strategic ploy in your opponent's movement phase. Just after an enemy unit ends a normal advance or fall back, you pick a Ridge Runner within 9, and they can make a normal move of 6 inches. Sorry, Ridge Runner or Jackals. So if they move within 9, move flat 6. Always an amazing ability. Remember, now your bike's going to have OC2, which means that they could be really annoying for your opponent. If they get close and you can bloop, jump on the objective with a bunch more OC. So I like it. Deft Maneuvering 1 CP battle tactic in your opponent's shooting phase after an enemy unit has selected its targets. You pick an Achilles Ridge Runner or Adelan Jackals that were at the target, and they get a 4+ invulnerable save. Amazing. I think we're going to be using this stratagem a lot. That's amazing. Shooting phase. Okay. Makes them much more durable. Yeah, big fan. And last of all, Circling the Prey 1 CP strategic ploy. At the end of the opponent's fight phase, you pick a Genestealer Cults mounted or vehicle unit that's not in engagement range of 1 or more enemy units and is wholly within range of battlefield edge. You put him back into reserve. You love to see it. I am a big fan of this. That uppy downy flexibility is fantastic. So I think this detachment's very interesting. I think it's mostly limited by the units that benefit, obviously. Bikers, vehicles. I like that they've built in a bit of transport support. Funny enough, I'd say it's mostly in the form of the enhancements. And I mean transports as in like the actual models that come in and out of the transport. So I think that's good because it's like how do you leverage the rest of this codex? How do you make it so it's not just a super niche skew bikes and vehicle list, especially in the new missions, right? So I think it's cool. I think it's not as strong as the other two. On first glance, it's not obviously as powerful, but I am into it. I think it's cool, it's fun, flavorful. With that, we've got one final detachment to take a look at, the Broodbrother Auxilia, and let me tell you, I am shocked, shaken, stirred that we did this detachment here. Broodbrothers have had a weird history. When they first came out, it was cool, you could bring in Imperial Guard into GSC. Quickly was abused, of course, with things like Elysian Drop Troopers. You'd see GSC armies with like mostly guard. It was very dumb. And then they've walked it back, they've walked it forward, they've limited it. They've generally been more conservative than not in the last few years. And this is kind of one step forward. So it's being a bit more permissive, meaning you can do more things synergizing your guard units with your GSC, which I like, but they haven't completely integrated them. They haven't gone back that far. So let's take a look. We have integrated tactics. This is also cool because this is the color of my guard. Detachment ability, integrated tactics. Each time an Astra Militarum unit from your army, see below, is selected to shoot, you can select one enemy unit within 18 of it and visible to that unit. If you do, till the end of the phase, models in that Astra Militarum unit can only target that enemy unit, and that enemy unit is caught in overlapping fire. Overlapping fire! It's not quite the same. While an enemy unit is caught in overlapping fire, each time a Genestealer Cults model from your army targets that enemy unit, they get +1 to hit. Okay, so basically you have spotters. Your guard units can spot for a GSC, for GSC units just in general, giving them +1 to hit. That's genuinely very interesting. We talk about these heavy weapons being BS5, so hitting on 4s is important. Primuses make those rerolls very, very valuable. So genuinely, I think that's cool. I like it. Some people probably won't be a fan of the fact that it doesn't benefit the guard units, but I think that's okay. It kind of makes narrative sense to me at least. But this is all, of course, based on this next ability, Broodbrothers, which is like, how do you actually have Astra Militarum units in your army? Well, it says you can include Astra Militarum units in your army, even though they do not have the Genestealer Cults faction keyword. The combined point cost of such units as you can include in your army is as follows. And for many of us, we're playing 2,000 points, which is Strike Force. It's going to be up to 1,000. So in any of these cases, it's half your army can be guard units. No Astra Militarum models from your army can be your Warlord. They lose Voice of Command ability if they have it, and you cannot include any units with the following keywords in your army using this rule: Aircraft, Commissar, Epic Hero, Militarum Tempestus, Ogren, Ratling, Tech Priest Engineer, Munistorm Priest. Checks out. I think the only thing I'm really sad about there is the Ogren, because I do love me some Ogren, and like some GSC Ogren would be so sweet. So that bums me out, but the rest is fine. Obviously we lose orders, so that is going to limit the efficacy of a lot of their shooting units, frankly. You you really want that +1 to hit a lot of time with guard. So yeah, I don't know. I'm curious about Khazarkin. They're not on this list, which I find interesting. So I want to try them. You can actually finally, you can have Krieger GSC. You can have Catachin GSC. That's cool. So we're going to play around with this, but generally speaking, your guard units are your support units. They're spotting for the GSC. Let's see what else. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 enhancements, once again. Starting with Martial Espionage. This enhancement grants the ability Genestealer Cults Infantry model only. Okay. Once per turn, when a friendly guard infantry or guard mounted unit is within 9 inches of the bearer is selected to shoot, the bearer can use this enhancement. If it does, till the end of the phase, improve the AP of ranged weapons equipped by models in that unit by 1. What? That's very cool. Infantry and mounted. End of the phase. Shoot. For shooting. That's weird. Mounted? So like the cavalry? Or infantry? They get a big squad, but then you should probably take neophytes anyways. Huh. It looks strong, but let me know in the comments. What unit are you using this on? Next up, Adaptive Reprisal, Genestealer Cults Infantry. Once per turn, you can target a friendly Genestealer Cults unit within 9 of the bear with the Heroic Intervention stratagem for 0 CP. It's cute, but you're probably not taking it. The Hero Returned! For a GSC infantry model only, you improve the leadership and OC characteristic of models in the bear's unit by 1. I like that, I'm a big fan. Especially because in this case, you maybe want to actually have those big blocks of neophytes. Now they're going up to OC 3 and getting +1 to hit. I love it. And last of all, Firepoint Commander. Genestealer Cults Infantry model only. Each time you target the bear's unit with the Fire Overwatch strat while resolving that stratagem, hits are scored on unmodified hit rolls of 5. Yes! Again, big bricks of neophytes. This is weird. This is what you want to take it for, honestly. So I think it's cool. Very cool, very cool. Not amazing. I'm very curious. Where do we use this and how do we make it work? So let me know. Next up, stratagems. We have In the Shadow of Iron, 1 CP. This is one of the best versions of this strat. This is that same strat archetype that lets you move a blip when someone would move within 9 inches of it. So in this case, 1 CP strategic ploy, at any phase, when someone moves within 9, blah, 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 you pick a guard vehicle from your army, and you can move it anywhere that's more than 9 inches from enemies and wholly within 6 of the units. So basically they're like slinking literally in the shadow of these like giant guard tanks, which is 1, very cool and thematic, and 2, actually quite powerful because you can have them pretty safe. So you can kind of have them just recall to safety if you get caught getting a little too close with your blips. You know what I'm saying? That's cool. I think it's a much better design. I guess I really just take issue with the pure strain one because it seems just so much worse. Anyways, Regimental Reinforcements, 1 CP. Oh, I will also note, it just moves the blip. It doesn't restrict what unit can come through it. Also makes it amazing. Regimental Reinforcements, 1 CP in the shooting or fight phase. After a guard infantry, a regiment unit, excluding artillery characters, is destroyed. Is this revenge? Oh no, you can pick the infantry unit, and you can put them into Cult Ambush on a 3+. That's awesome. Ah, that's so cool. So really now we're starting to see that integration. You can be recycling these models. And it's kind of cute because Guard can already recycle. So it kind of fits in that same design space that they know is relatively safe. And because, you know, they're always worried about creating busted combos that they don't foresee. So very cool. Next up, Suppress and Overwhelm, 1 CP in your shooting phase after a Guard unit has shot. You pick that Guard unit and you select an enemy unit hit by 1 or more of their attacks. They cannot overwatch, and your GSC get reroll charges against it. Amazing. Awesome. I love it. It's very cool. The only downside is this is in the shooting phase, which means your GSC unit has probably moved into position to charge, and they could have overwatched you when you did the move, right? If they didn't, cool, I guess you can take advantage of this. But they either already overwatched or you're probably charging on a line of sight. So I know it's going to come up. I can see the situations where it's going to come up, but it's a little wonky. Yeah, it's a little wonky, but a cool concept. Next up, Acceptable Losses, 2 CP, strategic ploy. In your shooting phase, you pick a guard unit, and then you pick a enemy unit in engagement range of 1 or more GSC units. Till the end of the phase, you can target the enemy unit, but then you roll a dice for each GSC units on a 5+, they take D3 plus 1 unit. So the guard people are just like acceptable losses. They gotta take one for the team, and they just start shooting into combat, and then they might end up shooting some of the GSC. I will say I do like that, rather than saying, oh, on every one you do this damage or whatever. They've kind of simplified it. They've done that over time. I think it used to be like you actually resolve shooting against them, then it was like you just take mortal wounds, and now it's just you take a batch of mortal wounds at the end on a 5+ to kind of represent that. Speeds up the game, has the same effect. It is 2 CP, very expensive, so I don't really see this getting used a lot, unfortunately, but it's very cool. Next up, Symbiotic Destruction, 1 CP, battle tactic. You do this in your shooting phase. When you pick a guard unit and a GSC unit that have not shot yet, and you pick an enemy unit within visible and within range. And what do they get? They get reroll wound rolls of 1. That's a lot of work for reroll wounds rolls of 1, I'll be honest. Pass. Last of all, Dark Network, 1 CP. This is a strategic ploy, and you do this in the reinforcement step of your opponent's movement phase after an enemy unit has been set up on the battlefield. And you pick one of your guard or GSC units, not monsters, not vehicles, within 12, and they can make a normal move of 6 inches. This is actually really cool. So if someone's trying to like deep strike on your backfield objective, maybe make some cheeky charges or something, you can just scooch over. And if they're not within 12, then they're not charging anyways, so who cares? So pretty niche, but again, pretty cool. And I think it's relatively useful. So this detachment, again, I don't think it's the most powerful, but I really like the flavor. I think it's a flavor win for sure. And it's gonna really open up a lot of conversions and things like that. I know it's got my head spinning with the opportunities. So very excited for it. I do feel like the Xenocreed is probably the strongest attachment. I feel like Host is probably decent, but unlike Warhorde, they actually have had a lot of their stuff stripped away, so I'm not sure. I feel like strongest, and then you're kind of looking at Biosanctic, maybe Outlander, maybe it's kind of a wash after that. I think this is probably the worst, but it is very, very cool. So I'm going to do a tier list, but if you want to get a general sense for power, that can give you a sense for what's here. And that's all the detachments, folks. That's the data sheets. I will do a quick flip through Crusade as we give some closing thoughts here. This book is not a Custodes book. It's not an Orc book either, I think. I think it's not quite a knockout of the park, but it is very cool. I think it's got a lot of fun elements. I think they were a little too harsh on the flavor of the original GSC, and frankly, I'm sad to lose that fun, uppy, downy shenanigans. I do think they needed to rein it in, but I think they hit it a little too hard, personally. So that would be my main critique. But I like the focus on different attachments and different abilities while keeping them fun and flexible. So there's your Crusade, folks. With that, I think it's a fun book. Let me know, of course, in the comments below what you're most excited about seeing. And of course, we have a ton of content coming out. Be sure to check out our upcoming Sisters review, which we're going to take a look at in just a second. We're also going to be talking about missions. We're going to be having a pre-recorded episode where we're featuring the Biosancted Broodsurge versus the Penitent Host, and a live show featuring 2 more detachments. And we're going to have a good talk after that. So lots and lots of time to discuss these brand new books. It's an exciting time in Warhammer. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch y'all next time on the tabletop. Bye!